Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
This video has been made to show the link between Washington Black and the cruelty that black people face to this day, with violence, tokenism, workplace injustice, and even slavery. I have chosen this since this is a topic that not many seem to cover or clump it together into racism instead of it being a bigger subcategory of it. I feel that the topic of cruelty should be better looked into, as looking more into this topic can unearth better arguments that can be used for topics like racism or loss of change. I've come to achieve this goal with this video that I am forcing you to watch. So sit down and relax as we take a deep dive into the subject of cruelty in Washington Black and how it relates to the real world. And to the people in the back, please stop talking. I can see you and hear your every move. Cruelty is something that all humans experience, with hidden examples such as bullying, abuse, sexual assault, manipulation, genocide, and many more. But in the sense of Washington Black, we see examples that translate over to today's age, such as being targeted by police brutality, targeted more by the law, seen more as a mascot for corporations as inclusive, the Giza and Rwanda genocide, being looked down upon for taking jobs, and black people being taken into the Holocaust and treated as slaves. Now, to answer the first part of this, that being tokenism, we take a deep dive into the book to bring up an interesting quote here that Wash says to Titch. This quote being, "You were more concerned that slavery should be a moral stand upon white men than by the actual damage it wreaks on black men." And another quote, also said by Wash, that states, "You took me on because I was helpful in your political cause." These quotes back the point of black people being used as a mascot for corporations, and it is in this situation Titch uses slavery as a way the white man shouldn't do it again and deserves a timeout, something that your parents would tell you as a kid, and uses him helping runaway slaves to Canada to show how he's the good guy, instead of acknowledging what slavery did to millions of black people and the suffering they endured and fighting for that cause. Another key point that shows the connection of this book and the real world to cruelty is genocide, something that I am definitely not on the run for in 12 different states. But, to get to the matter though, while Washington Black never truly mentions genocide, we can see examples of it in the book, the main one being killing for just no reason due to race. These killings happening everywhere from the plantation to the streets, which is a good transition to the Rwanda and Giza genocide. Two gruesome genocides against people lining streets with dead bodies, destruction of their homes and lives for the sole purpose of who they are. A great quote to show this example is said by Wash is, "Kidnappers generally roam the coast, and in the rainy, grey dusk they would stun a freed man in the streets, drag him half-conscious onto a ship bound for the southern states, to make him a slave again." Now this is an extreme case, and isn't as gruesome in Washington Black, though some similarities can be drawn from these events to the book. This next piece we're talking about is workplace injustice. For this example, we refer to a quote that Wash says, "I was held down in the alleyway behind a drinking establishment and beaten and urinated on by my laughing white colleagues." Talk about a pretty bad sounding night. This is a pretty self-explanatory quote, and very much does relate to the real world, as this cruelty continued through the 19th century, with black people being paid less and treated much worse compared to white people. These kinds of violent acts against black people have dwindled by a lot in the present day, but still pops up in different countries, and continues to carry on to this very day. It is also good to note that in the book, Wash bounces between jobs a lot. Maybe not all for the same reason, but this can portray how black people have a harder time keeping a job compared to white people, given workplace injustice. For this final piece of evidence, we have to take a daring and exciting adventure back to 1943, at a time where a certain white man decided the world is plagued since he got rejected from our school. Yes, my friends, I am talking about the Holocaust. Now, as we all know, millions of Jews were affected by this tragic event, but it wasn't only just them. A great parallel to Washington Black is that black people were basically forced back into slavery in these concentration camps, working under terrible conditions, killed mercilessly, and treated more as property rather than humans. And most importantly, they were under one master. The quote, "freedom wash," is a word with different meanings to different people. This may be a bit of a brutal quote to relate to this subject, but it has its point, as freedom for being a slave was usually death, or if one could run away either from a savior or by survival. In both cases, death was seen as a way to freedom. The only difference is that Hitler embraced the killing and gassed them if they didn't do a good enough job, while Erasmus felt robbed and cut their heads off as punishment so they wouldn't go back to their homeland. Either way, in both cases, freedom seemed robbed from them from a white man, with death or good behavior being the only way to freedom. Now, to end this video off, let me search something up real quick. How to properly end off an information-based video here. I just repeat the most important points. Got it. Overall, this connection of cruelty is very well present in Washington Black, giving insights to things such as using black people as a mascot to make corporations look more inclusive, mass genocides against people, and of course how the cruelty of slaves still haunts humanity long after it was abolished. With all these combined to it, makes a compelling argument that cruelty is indeed an important theme to our story and relates to the outside world in many different ways.